graduates, staff members, parents, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored to introduce the chief guest, Mr. Rajendra Theagarajah, the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer, Cargill's Bank, Sri Lanka. Mr. Rajendra Theagarajah is a veteran banker with a wealth of experience in the banking and financial services sector. He counts over 33 years in banking both locally and overseas. Mr. Theagarajah served as the Director, Chief Executive Officer of the National Development Bank from August 2013 till November 2016. Prior to that, he served as CEO, Managing Director at Hatton National Bank, which is known as HNB, for 9 years. Mr. Theagarajah was also a past chairman of Sri Lanka Bankers Association Guarantee Limited, Financial Ombudsman, Sri Lanka Guarantee Limited, former director, Colombo Stock Exchange, and former chairman of Asian Bankers Association. He has also served as a council member of the Sri Lanka Institute of Directors. I would like to invite Mr. Rajendra Theagarajah to deliver the convocation address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor, for those kind words of introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the head table, graduates, parents, invitees, a very good morning to all of you. I am delighted and consider it a personal privilege to be here and stand before you at this important day for SLIIT, the annual convocation for 2020. I think you guys, for the graduates who are coming out today or maybe the next 4 days, I think you guys should be privileged for passing through SLIIT. Because when you go out from today, you're going to have to differentiate yourself from also the hundreds or maybe thousands of other graduates who are coming from the traditional conventional universities of Sri Lanka, from other business schools and other schools which are also awarding various forms of degrees. And why you from SLIIT and not somebody else? And I'm looking at this from the point of view as a prospective employer. And I'll give you maybe 4 or 5 reasons as to why you should, with confidence, reaffirm your unique selling proposition. Knowing Lalit and having interacted with him now for more than a decade and watched the progress of this particular facility maybe for the 20 years, I think what you're seeing today as an infrastructure here is not what was there 20 years ago. It has evolved over time. And today you're, in my opinion, my humble opinion, the beneficiary of one of the best-in-class infrastructures available in the university system in Sri Lanka. It is second to none. The second is knowing the type of education you would have got in the last 3 or 4 years, and being somewhat privileged to, as an outsider, or what I sense which comes out from some of the other universities, with no disrespect to anybody else, I think the biggest difference in these universities or this center is what you get here is a two-way interactive experience. It is not a one-way delivery in a classroom where somebody stands and tells something to you and you go to sleep after some time. I think you are challenged and you are encouraged to get the best out of you. So it's a two-way process. The third thing is, I live right next to the UGC headquarters in what place. And every day, ever since I came back to Sri Lanka in '92, every day when I leave Gaul Road or Fort, before I come home for lunch, I ring my wife and say, "Ada para wahalada?" And when they say no, then I come. What I mean is, you guys are not a part of that. You are not branded as a group of people, for whatever reason, who are coming and sitting on the floor there. Even yesterday they did it. When there is so much of opportunity in the country to focus on what you should be doing, getting the 3 letters behind your name and getting on with it. So I think you have to be very proud to differentiate yourself. You're not a part of that. And of course, the other thing is the brand SLIIT. This brand has evolved over 2 decades. And today is second to none. And today it is sought after. When you see some of the sponsorships with some of those awards and medals which came, some of the best corporates in the country have chosen to engage with SLIIT, which means that you are, from the industry point of view, you are wanted. And then of course, when you look at the faculty, when I was walking in the convocation, professor was telling me, literally all of them who are walking there also come from Moratuwa, which means that you have the benefit of benefiting from some of the best talent in the country. So you need to very clearly be able to, with pride, differentiate yourself. But I want to spend, you might have wondered, what is this guy coming and sitting here as a chief guest? While people were coming across this podium, what was I from time to time doing, twiddling with my mobile phone? Was I not taking notice of you and trying to check mails? No, I was not doing that. I was consciously looking at a couple of YouTube clips on what I wanted to talk to you about in a couple of things. So there was no disrespect to you when I was looking down. Right? So don't get me wrong. I think when you get out from this place, you probably can look at 4 to 5 compartments. The first is the conventional private sector. The conventional companies which have been there for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years. The conventional business model, in which I also belong to. Then you also have another emerging set of companies and businesses which have done equally well or even better than the conventional businesses, which is called the new economy, which I think to a great extent demands and has a demand for the talent which comes out of the ICT and the engineering background. I'll talk about that in a moment. And then you get the government sector. Many people tend to say that is not for me. But today, when you look out and see where this country is going, I think the demands and the opportunity, demands from and the opportunity to serve in the government sector is no different and no less important than the private sector. And I'm going to touch on 1 or 2 examples as to what you can do with your computing background or engineering background from a national point of view. And then, of course, you have another new thing called the startup ecosystem. I don't know, Lalit, whether in SLIIT whether you have an incubator. I'm sure you do. But now it is, while it is a very serious thing, but there are also many people who want to be a part of this incubating system. The reason I'm saying this is, and I'll spend a bit more time on that, this is probably which is going to position Sri Lanka in the next 5 to 10 years in differentiating itself from some of the other countries. And then of course the last two opportunities is you want to get back into higher education, into academia, or you want to go abroad. I'll start in reverse order. For those of you who want to think of going abroad, fine. I mean, there may be various reasons, but let me tell you. Today we are sitting and enjoying the fruits of peace. Almost 11 years since this dreaded war finished, and this country is now only seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And this light cannot be realized if we don't have the talent which is required to harness that light. There was at one time a belief that those who left the country and went out maybe 30 years ago, suddenly you turn the tap and people will come back. But I don't think that works that way. Because very often when you go as a young graduate or a young migrant, you start a family, you get kids, then you have two priorities which take over your decision whether to come back or not. Affordable education and quality health care. And I guess till Sri Lanka gets to a level where it can offer both, getting this reverse migration is literally a pipe dream. As a result of that, every one of you have an opportunity to be a part of nation building, and I think this country needs every one of you, regardless of what degree you come out from. This country needs you. So I would urge you to seriously think before you look at emigrating, because this country needs you, right? And you just look around you and see today, and look where Colombo is. I came back at the age of 34, having qualified and lived and worked in the city of London, earning a 6-figure sterling salary. I chose with my wife to come back in 1992. I came back at a time when people of my age were running away. Regardless of race, religion, caste, creed, they were running away because of one thing: the war. But I chose to come back, spend some time, quality time with my parents, and be a part of this process. I got bombed out. I don't know how many of you were born or will recall, your parents will remember, 31st of January 1996, when that dreaded central bank attack took place. I was right in front of the Silinko building, which was wiped out, and the bank I worked for, which was a French bank, went into ashes. When I had through sheer gut feel, not backup and contingency plans, no procedure manuals, it was through sheer gut feel and networking, we restarted that bank in 4 days from ashes. You don't have that problem. You don't have grenades popping around on the floor in front of you. We went through it. So in an environment of peace and opportunity, you have a much greater, a peaceful environment to harness your dreams and be a part of nation building than what some of us went through. Right? But let me also tell you, from the conventional side, there is only a certain amount the conventional system can absorb. Because the very technology you have been taught, the very technology you are learning, is also challenging the conventional business. And it is also going to be a survival of the fittest. Those who are not adapting and not willing to adapt what you have studied as technology will gradually fade off. That is why, as I said, the new startups, and there is a new parallel economy on guys who have developed ICT-focused businesses are thriving. But before I say anything, you all are fortunate because your parents have already endorsed and supported you to come here and study either information and communication or information technology or engineering. They have supported you already. But what I see here is probably less than 200. But if I look at the ICT sector, you probably need 20,000. I don't know whether you have heard of the likes of TCS, Tata Computing Service, Infosys, the big names in India, because they're competing with those guys. When I go in sometimes on work to Infosys in Mysore, they pick every year 15,000 graduates with IIT and engineering, right? What we try to produce is a couple of thousand. So what I'm trying to say is, while you guys are fortunate that your parents have supported you instead of doing medicine or something else to come and do this particular qualification. But there are hundreds more of O-level, A-level students who probably want to do what you all are doing, but probably biggest barrier I see is sometimes the lack of awareness very often by their parents in encouraging them to go and do the type of degrees you're doing. Recently, I had the opportunity about a year and a half ago to accompany some of the guys, some of the business leaders from SLASCOM, which is your umbrella body, the main employment focus, to Jaffna, to the Jaffna University. We have a 4-year information degree program, 200 every year. But when you talk there, while those guys are all energized to come and do this in this industry, then suddenly they come to you in the evening and have a chat with you and said, "Sir, but I have a problem. At home, my mother and father say government job or bank job. And I'm going to share something. It's a mindset, right? Government job, why? The perception that it is safe. Bank job, why? It is safe. And the belief that it's pensionable. And of course, there is a third reason, which some of your parents might be able to relate to, but you might find it funny. In that part of the world, I'm not sure about the rest of the country, it's also believed that if you do engineering or if you do medicine, maybe law, you become highly marriageable. You might laugh, but that is reality in that part of the world. So what we did this time with the Ceylon Chamber was we invested some money with the USAID to invite groups of parents with the university and try to showcase some of the success stories in your field so that the parents' mindset was also gradually changed. Because if that mindset at home doesn't change, how can you produce the output which the country needs? The point I am trying to tell you guys is, now that you all have come out with this degree, one of the biggest service you can do, regardless of what job or vocation you do, is volunteer your time to go back to your own school, whether it's Malyadeva or Sangamita or Ananda, it doesn't matter. Volunteer and go back and volunteer for career counseling. At least one day a year, and say, this is me. This is what my degree has done to me. And it is not a bad thing to do an ICT degree or engineering degree. The same thing, Lalit, for the guys who are coming out of William Aglis on hospitality, they need to go and tell, if not, the parents will think, my daughter or son is going to end up as a cokie. So you need to, that is a very important message for you guys, right? The other thing you need to get to know is, when you get out of this place, it doesn't matter what you're going to do. What you are now equipped, I think, is a very good sense of hard skills, whether it's coding, whether it is programming, it doesn't matter. You are now being equipped. But as an employer, for the last 37 years, what I tend to feel, unfortunately, and I'm not saying this with any disrespect to any of you, what I see, the gap is on the soft skills side. When somebody comes for an interview, the way you are presenting yourself at the interview, the way you face an interview, very often people come with those degrees, 2, 3 qualifications, and you think that itself opens the door, but it does not. Because when you are interviewing, you are sometimes being interviewed not necessarily by guys who have the same qualification as you, right? So very often, they also want to see how well you appear in your projection to fit into a larger group in an organization. So your eye contact, the way you position yourself, the way you smile, the way you respond, everything is taken note of in addition to the 3 letters behind your name. And I am very honest about that, right? And the next most important thing, in addition to the soft skills of being able to speak, is also your attitude which you show at an interview, and your knowledge, general knowledge. One sad thing as a guy who has sat through interviews for more than 3 decades, I see is the lack of reading or general information. Even when you come to a company, we saw names like Maga, we saw, I don't know, a few other names. If you are going to one of these companies, get the annual report. Look at what is publicly available. Unlike our time, everything is today, you can do it by Googling. Don't go with just an open, bland look there. Do your homework and go, so that when they ask you, why have you come here? Why do you want to apply here? You need to give some idea. You have to excite that guy who is in front of you, who is talking to you. So you need to read, not only with your engineering or technology skills. Absolutely important, right? Because you have to, there is no point in having the degree if you don't demonstrate your employability. And remember something, what you guys have done today, it doesn't matter. You don't have to only go into a construction company or an engineering company. You can go into any field today in business and you are employable. For example, if I look at the bank I run, which is also a part of the largest supermarketing and FMCG groups in the country, Cargill's, if I look at maybe simple 3 applications, which you will understand. First thing is we make use of, we were one of the very first banks to adopt artificial intelligence on cybersecurity. Some of you all would have heard of IBM Watson, right? The AI engine. We were the first to adopt, because you realize today when hundreds of thousands of attacks are coming into your environment, you can't have an army of people checking. So you bring, and we are one of the very first to adapt. And there's a demand for people like you all, right, who know AI. The second is data science. Today, data is power. 20 years ago, this was not an output from your qualification. But today, people like us, you all are, people with those skills are highly sought after, right? So you need to look at that. The third area, which is becoming now like a wealth to any organization, is information security. And today in a bank, it is mandatory that you have a designated information security officer. And that officer has to be at a certain level. So the ISO role, which has evolved over the last 4 or 5 years, today has come right at the top. I'll give you maybe Couple of other examples which a conventional business is using technology with you guys. We're working with a group of people with your backgrounds who have in Sri Lanka developed an application using Wi-Fi and the mobile phone technology to control and monitor the in the plantation, in the farm, in the fields, your drip irrigation, to be able to activate the water sprinklers instead of having labor at any given time, depending on the technology, the temperature. That application, which is a highly labor saving and a smart application, was developed by a couple of guys in one of the universities, top universities here, and we are working with them to deploy that to some of our farming customers who are supplying fruit and veg to us, as an example. We are also looking, I'm sure the guys who have done ICT, IoT is known to you all, right? Internet of Things. We are looking at sensors to see what we can do with sensors with one particular car park. With the loyalty, when people walk in to shop in their cars, for repeat customers, we're trying to see what we can do with sensors in the car park. And then make sure that the alert comes through the mobile phone, so that we know it is Mr. Pereira, who is a customer of Food City, who has been coming 10 times in the last 3 months. His vehicle is now parked. So we are able to give an offer, customized to you, depending on your purchase pattern the last 5 visits, because of the information we are able to gather real time using IoT. So even companies which are into agriculture, or whether it is FMCG, have a demand for the talent which people like you have acquired with this degree. So don't just close your vision only with one or two conventional sources of employment which you think are attractive, or who have come to SLIIT looking for you. Also look outside. And I have a couple of other things I want to leave you. This institution will not be like this, and if it is to be maybe double in capacity and in terms of technology and facilities in the next 10 years, this institution also needs money. It needs corporate sponsorship. It needs support. And what is the role you guys can do? Every one of you, when you come out of this place, go out, you will become a member of the alumni of SLIIT. It is not about doing your 3 years or 4 years, going away from here and forgetting about SLIIT. As in, the power of the alumni has two folds. One is giving back to the institution which produced you. Because if you want this institution to continue to grow, you have to continue to support your parent. The second thing is the power of networking. You might not realize the 200 or so you guys, you would have a good laugh and a joke for 3 years, made some friends, you go out now and you think, okay, life is over. And you might keep in touch for the next 2-3 years, and then very often you tend to go away. If I look at when I did my master's in the UK some 36 years ago, and if I look back now, how much have I retained out of that master's? I would say less than 5%. From the technical side, I would say less than 5%. But the biggest power, which I think I have benefited, are the guys who came out of with me in 1984, and where those ladies and gentlemen are today in the world, whether it's in Sri Lanka or in other parts of the world, where they are. Because every one of them, like us, have also become more senior, more strong, more influential, more powerful. And with a network, All it needs is a phone call. Batch of 2020. You remember me? No? But I'm batch of 2020. Yeah, I can't remember, but what can I do for you? Door is open. Make use of that network. Absolutely important. Third point is, don't only confine yourself to the alumni of the ICT faculty or the engineering faculty. You have humanities, you have tourism, you have nursing, you have biotechnology, architecture, God knows what. The guys who are coming out of engineering, maybe in 5 years' time, you'll suddenly realize there's a huge shortage of quantity surveyors. So instead of scratching your head, if you have friends here in the quantity surveying group here, you have a natural source to recruit. Right? You never know when you will need. So don't only confine your alumni relationship to your degree specialization. Look at the entire spectrum of SLIIT alumnus and see how you can benefit. Some of the smartest talent we see in the startups sometimes. You have the best of engineering brains and computing brains coming up with a smart idea. But then, when people like us sit as judges in these competitions or when you come and pitch your thing, very often where you fall short is not in the smartness, in your ability to monetize it and market it. Technically, you are very sound. On the other hand, at alumni here, you have a business faculty. You have a faculty of humanities, where I'm sure they are promoting marketing, God knows what else. Make use of those skills also as part of your overall holistic positioning, whether you're in your own business or whether you're in somebody else's business. So I think these are some of the thoughts I'd like to leave with you all as guys who are going out into the world with a lot of hope and dreams, not only for yourself, for your loved ones, but also very much hopes and dreams for our country. Do not forget that. This is the country which has given birth to you, and this is a country at this point in our evolution needs you more than ever. With those few words, let me wish you every success. God bless you.